What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with a little DFS preview for Showdown at round 2 of the US Open. Going to be a quick preview going live a little bit earlier than usual, just to make sure this has a little bit more shelf time. And of course, with the last hour of play, nothing's really going to change. We know how players played for the most part. And in terms of my modeling, again, nothing's going to change all that much. So let's take a look at the weather to start this off. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and you'll see that the weather for tomorrow is going to be very similar to today. Perhaps the one main difference is there isn't going to be as much of a difference between the morning and the afternoon wave, a little bit more of a flat profile when it comes to the wind strength. First of all, you see 9 to 12 miles an hour of sustained winds for much of the morning wave, and it really only goes up to 15 to 16 miles an hour for much of the afternoon. The wind gusts are just a slight difference as well, right? It's right around a 5 mile an hour difference in terms of the max wind gusts. So nothing really to speak of there. I mean, if there's going to be any type of a difference, we're talking about 0.1, maybe 0.2 strokes at the very most. And that's exactly what has played out today. So if we split this by wave, you'll see that the scoring average is right around 4/10 of a stroke of a difference between the morning and the afternoon. So if we're expecting a similar differential between the morning and the afternoon, which is we got up here today, a very similar type of split, we're going to play it the same way, right? It's 10 to 15 miles an hour the entire day. And the wind gusts, while they're a little bit higher towards 7 to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, it's nothing drastic, right? That's going to be for an hour of play. For the rest of the day, it's extremely flat, like what we saw here for Thursday. So just taking a look at the stats from today, I'm going to play it pretty much to the same level of difficulty, where it's playing right around 2.5, 3 strokes over par, depending on what they do with the pin locations. That's the one thing that we're not able to anticipate this early into the day, but that type of effect isn't going to change things all that much, right? It might be like a half a stroke shot in either direction difference. Might play closer to like 2 strokes under par, maybe 3.5 strokes over par. Either way, not going to change our modeling too much there. Let's go over and hop into the player pool now. Let's see what we got. And we'll catch up on chat too. There are a few of you down there. I know we're going live earlier than usual. We got Catch Me If You Can says ride the Daffy train. That is insane. I mean, the way that you pronounce Daffy's name just is a complete mind fuck to me. I mean, every time they show him on the leaderboard and they call him Daffy Duck, I'm just like, dude, that's not how you should pronounce that name. I mean, even they were kind of talking about it, but yeah, hey, heck of a start for him. So if he can ride that out, that'd be pretty cool. Roman says DJ is back. Yeah, I agree. He looked pretty solid today. Really, that par save on 18 that we saw just before going live here was I would say, a good summation of his day. He was sharp in pretty much every single category, hitting fairways. His approach play looked just like it did at the Live event, which was top 10 in that field. And then the putter, he apparently changed his putter, cut it down an inch and a half from what it was before. And ever since he's done that, it looked great today. So that's something that he's done in the last 3 to 4 days. And if he continues that, I mean, oh boy, I mean, DJ could win this event, and it would just be a huge middle finger to the PGA Tour. So secretly, I kind of want that to happen, just because, I think the whole media, trying to just slander this Live Tour thing is just a little bit overboard. So I kind of hope they get it slapped back in their face. But we'll have to see. It was pretty cool to see, Roman. I agree. Chris Palmer says Mansell on a heater today at +7. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought a guy that we've never seen before on tour would go out there and blow up? Either way, hopefully Wilson Dog's doing okay out there. Justin Wilson says, man, my lineups were looking so good early in the day. That's always going to be the case, man, right? That's why you don't check your lineups early on a Thursday morning. In our Discord here on the Gsluke community, we have this like running joke where, like, if anyone posts a lineup Thursday morning, we just completely clown them, because of course your lineups are going to look good Thursday morning. If you played more guys in the morning wave than the PM wave, you're going to be winning a lot of money regardless of your player pool early. So yeah, dude, that's just a byproduct of the week. Just, I guess, a word of advice: don't check till the end of the day. That's something that I've started to do over the last year and a half here on the tour, is I don't check until the end of the day, right? Maybe early in the day I take a peek just to cheat, that kind of thing, but it's not like I'm checking every hour. It's a futile task. You'll go from losing money to winning like $5,000 within an hour, back to losing, $400, $500. It's a wild ride for sure. Yeah, I know you know that. And Roman says, how do you feel about Bryson? Bryson had a hell of a round today. Do I think that continues? Absolutely not, right? He's at even par right now. He gained off the tee. He gained over a stroke and a half on approach the last time I checked. Of course, with guys on the course, that's still going to fluctuate up and down. But that's damn impressive to me, Roman. So if you want to hop on the Bryson train, I'm not going to talk you off of it because based on how he looked today, there's a lot of positive there. There's a lot to look forward to, but I just worry about that going forward. I mean, he's got the wrist injury that could flare up at any point. And the approach play, the last time we saw him at the Memorial was like dog shit, like really, really, really bad. So I worry about that. He lost like 7 strokes on approach, something like that. And Catch Me If You Can says, treat your lineups like can't even say the name, Rom Pepil with his chicken. Set it and forget it. Sounds about right to me. I mean, if you want to check after the round is ended, I think that makes a lot of sense when you're looking at your lineups. But if you're checking them live, you're just doing yourself a disservice. If you're winning money, and then at the end of the day, if you're not winning money, you're gonna feel like you were robbed, even though you never really had that money to begin with. And then if you check it early and you're losing money, you're gonna be like depressed for no reason, right? Because by the end of the day, your guys can play well and it can make up for it. So that's why I tell people not to check. There's nothing that can go well with checking. Let's just say that there's no positive to it. Let's talk about this player pool, though. So up top, I like Scotty. Scotty ended up even par today, which was probably the worst round he's going to have this weekend. He was horrible on approach. Off the tee wasn't even his best self, and he wasn't making putts. Yet he still shot even par, which was much better than average today. So that really just tells you the type of pedigree that he has here. So he's going to be 10% owned. If he's going to be overlooked because he didn't shoot 3 under par like somebody like Rory, didn't shoot 1 under like somebody like JT the last time I checked. I mean, that's just a negligible difference, right? It's going from even par to 1 under par. You're talking about 2, maybe even 3 times the ownership on somebody like a Justin Thomas, up to 4 times the ownership on somebody like a Rory McIlroy. So just the ATM that keeps on giving back is fading the chalk in Showdown, particularly after a ceiling performance. And that's the well I'm going back to. It's what I do for pretty much every Showdown slate. So it shouldn't be a surprise that I'm fading the 2 chalkiest plays on the slate. So those are why JT and Rory aren't in the pool. I'm a little bit more willing to play JT than Rory just because he is going to be lower owned. JT is playing in the morning wave tomorrow, which with more receptive greens could be the slightly more advantageous wave. But like I said, just maybe a 0.2 shot difference between the 2 waves there. But I'm not playing either. So I'm also going to be avoiding guys like a Matt Fitzpatrick. He should be extremely chalky tomorrow. Hovland's not really going to be chalky, but I'm also avoiding guys like a Xander Schauffele, who played pretty decent today, right? He got it in, I believe it was like 1 under par, even par, something in that range, but made a bunch of birdies. And he's got that US Open track record. He was much higher owned in 4-round stuff than I think people were expecting this week. So I'm going to be off of him as well. Same thing with Cam Smith. His driving accuracy certainly caused him some problems today, and that was my problem with him to begin with. So those are the guys that I'm not playing. I do like myself some John Rahm. He will be a little bit chalky, but just kind of like Scotty Scheffler, he had a horrible round for his standards, was missing greens, didn't look all that sharp with the approach play, gets shot 1 under par. So that's pretty much what we can expect as a floor performance. And at this type of venue, I mean, at a course that's playing this difficult, 1 under par in a small field GPP is more than enough, right? If you're playing the Millie Maker, it's not enough. You're going to have a better performance than that. But if you're in some of these smaller field events, guys like John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler have immense upside going forward, because if they just repeat what they did today, which was playing horribly to their standards, that's going to be enough for your large field GPP. That's the crazy thing about these 2 players. Whereas guys like a Rory McIlroy, JT, Cameron Smith, that are a little bit more volatile at these harder events, right? Their floor is to shoot 2 or 3 over par, be completely irrelevant. Guys like Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm hardly ever do that sort of thing. So I really like them when conditions get tough. That's why I'm going to those 2 guys up top. I bet them outright before the week started, and I'm obviously going to continue to ride that train. Hopefully John Rahm stays a little bit lower owned. I have him at 24% right now, so just a little bit lower than Justin Thomas. But maybe he comes in even lower owned than that. Maybe right around 20%. That'd be ideal for me at the very least. But honest to God, I'm going to be starting a lot of lineups here in the 9K range and a lot of lineups in the 8K range. This 8K range is absolutely loaded here for Showdown. So first off, let's talk about the 8K range because it's really why I'm going to play so balanced with my lineup. So first off, Hideki Matsuyama, absolutely love him tomorrow. He's a smash play. He didn't have a flashy performance, but quietly was more than okay with his ball striking. Wasn't your typical, top five off the tee, top five approach that you get with Hideki Matsuyama, but it was good enough, right? It was solid enough. He just needs to sharpen it, polish it a little bit, go out there, gain a little bit more significantly in both categories. Cameron Young, he shot 2 over par today, which isn't ideal, but it really wasn't all that bad. He's a little bit streaky, right? We've seen him go out there, be first round leader, go out there round 2, kind of shit the bed, that sort of thing. So maybe he does it in reverse this time. Shoots 2 over par the first round, goes out there, shoots 4 or 5 under par the second round. He's shown an ability to snap out of it in a hurry. So I like him there, $8,400. Max Homa, 8,200 makes a whole lot of sense. Brooks at $8,000. Let's talk about Brooks. I liked him this week, and I still like him this week. In fact, I'm considering firing an outright bet on him because his last 5 holes today were beautiful. His first 14, complete dog shit. I mean, he was just spraying it all over the place. The fact that he even made 3 birdies early in his round was a miracle. It was just, he hit a few wedge shots to like 2-3 feet. He made 1 long putt that ended up going in. But his last 4 holes were beautiful. He hit every fairway, was driving it like 330, 340 yards. In fact, his driver today was elite. He was one of the best drivers in the field today. The issue was the approach play early. The last 4 holes, he hit every green. He hit a swooping draw on 18 around a tree that had to go over a bunker from like 180 yards in the rough. When you start to see those shots from Brooks, he's dialed in. And those last 4 holes, he was starting to show that momentum. But that shot on 18 just convinced me. I mean, the guy found something. I mean, early on, it looked like he was completely lost. And if he can go out there early tomorrow morning, shoot something like 3 under par, I mean, first off, that's enough for Showdown, right? I'd be more than okay with that tomorrow. But for 4-round stuff, that's going to put himself at even par. And I think the lead tomorrow, probably going to be 4 or 5 under par at the very most. I mean, that's putting yourself back into contention. So I wouldn't write people off just because they're 2-3 over par, like a Brooks Koepka, particularly if they ended the round with some positive momentum like he was able to. So I like him at $8,000, just the price tag too. You're not going to beat that, right? $8,000 for Brooks Koepka, just $100 removed from the 7K range doesn't even seem right. Same thing with Dustin Johnson, right? He's $7,900. Daniel Berger, $7,800. I mean, you can make some insanely solid lines for tomorrow just living in this 8 and 7K range, right? Maybe just taking somebody like a Will Zalatoris per se as your most expensive player and living in this range right here. So I'm going to be making a majority of my lineups tomorrow in this range. I'm going to be sprinkling in some John Rahm. I'm going to be sprinkling in somebody like a Scotty Scheffler, maybe 25% of each of them. So maybe half my lineups are going to have one or two of them in my lineups. And then the rest of them are just going to be living in this really balanced range. We'll catch up on chat down here. We got a Pro Reactor saying Willie Z, who I do really like there. I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail here in a second. Cash says, here's my lineup, cashing large right now. You have Rory, DJ, Cantlay, Homa, Hostler, and Daffy. I like that lineup first off. But yeah, Cantlay, I don't know what's going on with him. Whatever's family issues going on, it seemed to be affecting him out there today. He looked like he didn't give a shit. I mean, he was just like walking up to shots. Normally he has that long drawn out routine that he has. Looked a lot shorter today, which, I mean, great for a viewing perspective, was not good for his play today. So hopefully that can hold up, though. That's a damn solid lineup, particularly with Daffy down there. Daffy Duck out there to a hell of a start. Roman says Gary Woodland looked poised and ready for a deep run. I would agree with that. I think that he looked solid with the ball striking. He loves himself U.S. Open conditions, gnarly rough, where he can use that strength that he has. Big burly guy. Gary Woodland is able to hack out of that rough a lot better than other players. Yeah, I think he's on a pretty solid stretch as of right now. Let's see. Tayshawn says, I think you unlocked a newfound dislike for Phil Mickelson. Yeah, I don't know if you saw some of my comments down in the Discord chat. I was roasting him a good bit, so I'm right there with you. He definitely didn't birdie that last hole, right? So he didn't even push for us in prize picks. He lost to Jim Furyk in a birdie matchup today. If anybody doesn't know why I'm kind of jaded about it, same thing with Tajon. He lost to old man Jim Furyk in a matchup. That should tell you everything you need to know about Phil. He took his 200 mil, whatever it is he got from the Saudis, and he's happy with that. Doesn't seem to care about his golf game anymore, that's for sure. We got Gary down in chat. What is going on? And Carson says Lanto Griffin looked good on metrics today for a sneaky low-owned play. Just needs to sink some putts. And if there's one thing that Lanto Griffin can do, Carson, it's make some putts. He is one of the more streaky putters on the PGA Tour. I can remember just a few events ago, he went out there and gained over 3.5 strokes putting. I believe it was the first round of an event. The next round went out and lost 4 strokes with the putter. So if he was having issues with the flat stick today, I haven't looked at the shots gained metrics for Lanto specifically, but if that was the issue, then I'm all in on him because he's more than capable of turning that around. So, hey, I think Carson, you may have just talked me into some Lanto because I don't think I had him in the pool as of right now. Go ahead and confirm that. Let's see. I had him down as a blank. Well, that's going to turn into a yes. I'm going to take your word on that. I'm going to double check it after we get off of here. But if it was everything but the putter today for Lanto, that is certainly somebody that you'd want to get to. That's the exact profile of a player that I'm looking to target. Let's talk about a few other guys up top that aren't in that 8K range that I'm taking. So Colin Morikawa looked great today early, was 3 under par through 8 holes. Unfortunately, didn't make a birdie after that, so kind of stalled out. So hopefully that momentum can get turned around. But, he went off in the morning. He's going to have a lot of time in between his rounds to work on whatever stalled out on the back 9. So I could see myself getting there. Jordan Spieth, I'm hopping in on Jordan Spieth. I jumped off the ship right before his slate started. So if you were on my Discord server, you obviously got the update about that. But the sickness really, really irked me. He looked horrible out there as well, but he somehow still shot 2 over par. So he survived the worst of his stomach issues. If he goes out there tomorrow and is over the stomach issues and he's going to be low owned because of that, because he shot 2 over par today, I'm going to be all over that because the last time he had stomach issues, the next time he went out and played was at Pebble Beach and he finished in second place. In the first round of Pebble Beach, I believe he shot something in the mid 60s. So he's shown an ability to bounce back from stomach issues before. So I'll be there. Love myself some Jordan Spieth to begin with. And I also like myself some Joaquin Niemann. So Joaquin Niemann was somebody I actually pivoted onto last night. So I know he was a fade for us this week. He actually made it into my player pool, though, because of some of the Jordan Spieth stuff. I also pivoted off of Patrick Cantlay, actually, too, because of some of the practice round issues that he was having. So guys like Joaquin Niemann made it into the player pool. Who else made it into the pool? Can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's a few other guys that also made it into the pool that weren't in there before. But everyone on the Discord got the update for that. Let's move on to the 7K range now. So we talked about Brooks. Absolutely love DJ too. Like the momentum that we saw there. Sanjay M, he had a horrible round today, but he was chalk for a reason. He's a solid play, and at $7,900, he's still criminally underpriced. So just because of the overreaction, I expect him to be relatively low owned going into the second round. So that's a situation I'm always trying to take advantage of. Daniel Berger at $7,800. I like his putting ability. He looked pretty solid today early. He kind of tailed off towards the end, but he looks good enough. He's just a solid price at $7,800. Just a mispriced golfer. You could say the same thing about Davis Riley and Tommy Fleetwood. I think this whole range here is just extremely valuable. Corey Connors had a solid end to his day, has the momentum I'm looking for, ball striking ability off the charts. So even with some windy conditions, I expect him to play well. Keegan Bradley, an absolute madman, high birdie or better percentage player that I'm getting to HV3, fits that same type of build. You get a huge discount on Trell Henn. So if you're looking to get a bounce back from Henn, who shot +2 today, could look in that direction. I certainly will be. Taylor Gooch, same story. Didn't have the best day today, but if you're looking for a bounce back, solid price tag, going to be super low owned because of his performance today. Russell Henley fell off planet Earth. He was in first place at one point today. He ended up shooting 6 over par. So from a momentum perspective, about the opposite of what we'd be looking for at this point. But I like the fact that he's an aggressive iron player. He needs to shoot something like 3 to 4 under par. I shouldn't say 3 to 4 under par, 2 to 3 under par to make the cut tomorrow. So hopefully he can do that for his sake and for our sake in Showdown. That would be a pretty solid performance. Bryson, I'm going to change from a no to a blank. I don't want to tell people not to play Bryson because he looked decent today. I'm not going to get there myself. I have my doubts that that's going to maintain itself throughout the weekend. Seamus Power, solid start to the day, ended up having 2 bogeys in the middle of his round that really stalled him out, but high upside play, very aggressive player. So I like him there at that price tag. Another aggressive player, Sebastian Munoz, one of the higher birdie or better percentage players that we have on all of the tour. Denny McCarthy, an elite level putter, somebody who can go out there, gain 4 or 5 strokes putting in any given field. So you can see I'm scattershotting a lot down low. There's a lot more players in this range of the player pool than any other range. There's a lot of guys that I'm fading up top. Like I said, I'm not taking that much of Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler. It's more I'm going really heavy on the guys that I like here in this bottom of the 8K, top of the 7K range. And then I'm scattershotting down low. You can see it gets a lot more sparse, right? So a lot of the ownership is going to be towards the top as well. So by avoiding some of the guys up top, it's helping me avoid some of that chalk. And a lot of the guys here in this mid 7K, lower 8K range aren't that chalky. I mean, you're talking like 20% on Fitzpatrick, right? We're fading that. He's one of the chalkiest guys in that range. Tony Finau as well, right? Like 16% on him. So he's somebody that we're fading. You're talking like 5% Brooks. You're talking like 4% DJ. You're talking 7% Daniel Berger. I mean, just it's not that hard to get leverage here, and you can scatter shot quite effectively. So that's what I'm doing there in that range, and pretty much the whole way through the bottom of the 7K range here. Lanto Griffin, we talked about him earlier with the spike putter. Gary Woodland has looked solid to this point. Guys like a Tom Hoagie has bounced back plenty of times in the past. Same thing with Siwoo Kim. So even though they've both started off a little bit on the hairy side, I could see it turning around. Stuart Sink, solid play going into the week with his ball striking metrics. So I could definitely get myself some Stuart Sink. Mark Leishman, super cheap, right? You're talking about $6,000, $6,900 for Mark Leishman, $69 for Jason Kokrak. Just this is when you start to love showdown pricing, particularly for these major championships. It's as soft as Charmin out there with this pricing. I'm going to take some Kevin Na. He, of course, started red hot, and that was on the harder of the 2 9s. For his last 14 holes, I believe he shot like +7 or something along those lines. And that was on the easiest part of the golf course. So that's concerning, but at the same time, to make all those birdies on the difficult side, that's almost just as impressive, right? So it's what do you want to look into, the positive or the negative? And you know me, I'm always willing to take shots on guys, look into that positive, try and find some diamonds in the rough, and that's a method to go out and do so. Luke List, another low-owned play in that 7K range that I'll have. Thomas Peters, a bomber. So if he can get it working with the driver, could set up quite a few wedges into greens. I like that. Adrian Arnaus, another elite driver of the golf ball, relatively long player too. Cameron Tringale is the showdown wizard. You play Tringale in pretty much every showdown slate because of how many birdies he makes. He's going to make a lot of bogeys, but in showdown, it's all about your birdie production. So I'm going to have some Tringale at $6,700. He's cheap. Patrick Reed, great price tag on him there. I think he's obviously mispriced when it comes to his pedigree. Mackenzie Hughes, you could see a bounce back there. Scott Stallings, same thing, another bounce back candidate. Aggressive players that I'm willing to take a shot on. Lucas Herbert is no stranger, kind of like a Denny McCarthy, to gaining a ton of strokes with the putter in a round, like 3-4 strokes in any given round with the flat stick. If he does that tomorrow, a guy, by the way, I need to mention this with Rory. He gained over 4 strokes with the putter today. That's not happening again. I can guarantee you that tomorrow. If he was a neutral player with his putter, which is asking a lot, right? Obviously, he gained 4 strokes for a reason today with the flat stick. He would have shot even par today. So actually, no, he would have shot 1 over par today, right? And how different would we have looked at his round today if Rory was a neutral putter to the field? Or even if he just gained a stroke to the field today with his putter, right? He shot even par today. We'd have a completely different mindset on Rory McIlroy. In terms of how he actually hit the ball from tee to green, it's identical to somebody like a Scotty Scheffler. It's identical, or actually even worse than somebody like a Jon Rahm. And I'm always going to try and take shots on the guys down low that have that spike putter that didn't have it the first round. And I'm always going to try and take shots on the guys up top that have the ball striking, right? The consistent guys. Up top, you want to take guys that you know are going to play well tomorrow. You don't want to be taking chances up top, right? Whereas down low, it's Denny McCarthy. It's Cameron Tringale. He's $6,700 for a reason, right? I am much more willing to take chances on a hot putter, somebody going out there and having that spike performance. I'm not counting on somebody like a Scotty Scheffler to gain 4 strokes with his putter tomorrow to hit a ceiling. I mean, you're hoping Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, just hit a ton of fairways, hit a ton of greens tomorrow, that sort of thing. The avenue for success for guys like a Tringale, like a Denny McCarthy, for example, even a guy like a Mackenzie Hughes or Scott Stallings, is to make a shit ton of putts tomorrow. And they've done it in the past, so why not again? Same thing with Lucas Herbert there. Let's move down to Richard Bland. I could see getting myself some Bland. He, for whatever reason, loves himself difficult conditions. We got Ju Young Kim. I'll be taking him too. He's an extremely aggressive player, only $6,400. Got Nick Hardy. Nick Hardy solid at $6,200. Loves this golf course. He's played here before for U.S. amateur events. I believe when Matt Fitzpatrick won, he played in that year. But loves this golf course, long off the tee, like I said, high birdie or better percentage player. So if he goes out there, shoots 2-3 under par, could crack the optimal lineup at $6,200. Braden Matthews, another bomber from the Korn Ferry Tour, and has really shown a lot of pedigree on the Korn Ferry Tour. Is posting top 10s, top 15 finishes almost every single week. In fact, I believe he's already earned his tour card on the Korn Ferry Tour, one of the first players to do so. That's impressive. He's not just some super long player that we saw in some of the magazines for hitting the ball 400 yards. He's also got a lot of touch around the greens and is capable of making some putts. So let's go ahead and catch up on chat. We'll talk about some strategy and then hop on out of here. I'm trying to do this in a little bit of a quicker format this time. We've got Don French. He says, should we trust live players over strokes? So I'm assuming you mean for prize picks. Not for every player. You have to do it on an individual basis because guys like Louis Oosthuizen, Phil Mickelson, they look horrible, right? So I'd be taking overs on their strokes. But for guys like Dustin Johnson, I mean, he looks pretty damn sharp. Taylor Gooch didn't look all that bad today. And even Kevin Na looked pretty solid for, 4 or 5 holes there. So do it on an individual basis. So I wouldn't generalize all of them or group them together. But yeah, in general, some of them definitely looked a little bit rough there. Roman says, wow, Justin Rose found something at the RBC Canadian Open. He may have. It also may just be a stretch of good golf, right? There's always the coincidence that somebody just has 2 good rounds in a row. It's always in the cards there with how many players that are playing on the golf course. But maybe he found something, right? Maybe it's similar to what Brooks Koepka found on his last 4 holes today. It was obvious that he found something. He was talking to Ricky Elliott, his caddy, about what he had found. So that's how we knew about that with Brooks Koepka. But maybe that's the case with Justin Rose too. We will, it's hard to know. Gary Kerr says, I have Theodoris, you have Louis in your pool. Looks like showdown lineups from here on out. Yeah, if you had him in your main lineup, probably not going all that well. He shot +8 today. He looks like he said he forgot the Harry Potter name. It's Leo Wickus Theodoris. Crazy name. It's hard to even remember at this point. Yeah, +8 today. Oof. Definitely not in your best lineups, just to say that. And Planet Warrior says, what are your outright faves now after this round? So I haven't added any. So it's not like I've gone and actually tried to invest. I was thinking about adding a Brooks Koepka outright. I'd have to see what the number is. But the outrights I have as of right now, I'm sitting on some pretty decent outrights. Scotty Scheffler at even, John Rahm at -1. I still think they both have really good chances to win. The Jordan Spieth outright I have, I kind of wish I didn't place it, right? That was placed before I knew about the illness. So I'm a little bit less bullish about that. I wouldn't bet Rory right now. So if you're asking about that, I wouldn't bet Rory McIlroy. Obviously, he's like +450 or +400 at this point based on his position. If you're going to look at anybody, take a look at somebody like a Justin Thomas, right? He's -1 at this point. He's in prime position. He's probably going to be steamed down a little bit lower than you'd like, but he's also, somebody that should be steamed down. He's in perfect position. He's going off early tomorrow. Very likely to go out there, at least add to his score, shoot something like 1 to 2 under par tomorrow. So I'd take a look at JT. I think he's got a good shot here. I'm just trying to think of names that I haven't already taken, right? Because I'm not going to tell you John Rahm or guys like Scotty Scheffler now because I've already taken them. But maybe JT. Let's look at the board here. I can think of a few other names for you. Let's think of a few dark horses, right? In terms of guys that played well today, that might be able to actually continue that. Daniel Berger, started off pretty solid today. I think maybe worth a look depending on his number. Let's see. I don't know, man. I kind of want to stick by the ones that I have at this point. Maybe JT's the ad that you could look at. Gary Woodland off to a great start. Dustin Johnson, right? I wouldn't have bet Dustin Johnson before the week. I think maybe that's the answer here is DJ, right? I wouldn't have had the confidence to take him before this week, but now that he shot 2 under par, he's going off early tomorrow morning. If there's going to be a wave that's advantageous, it is going to be the morning wave tomorrow. Maybe take some Dustin Johnson out, right? Maybe not the worst idea in human history. And Ray Flores says, are you playing Mansell? Yeah, his +7 round today really got it done, didn't it? That's for sure. All right, let's talk about a little bit of strategy. So because I'm going to be living in this middle of the 8K range, top of the 7K range, I'm certainly going to have to leave salary on the board. So even though these guys are going to be like 15, 10% owned, if I'm taking 6 guys in a lineup that are going to be 10, 15% owned, which, if I'm living in this 8 and 7K range, there's not really going to be that guy who's 0.2% owned in my lineup or that guy that's like 1.5% owned, like I would be if I was down here in the 6K range. I'm going to leave salary on the table. So I'm playing in the large field GPP tomorrow. I'm probably going to enter like 10 to 15 lineups in the $15 GPP. And my strategy is just going to be to scatter shot, take my favorite plays here, and leave maybe even $500, $600 on the table. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive about it this time around. I'm going to have a few lineups where I take one of these 10K guys, like I said before, Scotty Scheffler, Rory, or somebody like a Colin Morikawa. But a majority of them are going to be leaving salary on the table and just taking an extremely balanced construction. So that's what I'm going with in terms of strategy and cash. I think you should also take a relatively balanced strategy, right? Maybe start with somebody down here like a Colin at $9,200. Second man in, maybe take somebody down here like Cameron Young, Hideki. You could take Max Homa in that lineup too. You could take all 4 of those guys and still round out a lineup with some salary left. And your last man in a cash lineup, you're going to be down here in like the mid 7K range, right? You could take somebody like a Trell Hatton at $7,400. You go down here to the bottom of the 7K range, right? Your quote unquote last man in might be a Gary Woodland at $7,200. That's the direction I would go for a cash contest. So large field GBPs, leaving salary on the table. That's what I'm doing for tomorrow. In a cash contest, just taking an extremely balanced approach. So that's all I'm going to have here for the live stream. I'll catch up on these questions before we hop on out of here. Planet says, I took everyone you took plus JT. I was thinking about adding an Aaron Wise and Hideki. Hideki, yeah, might be worth a few looks. I didn't think about that. That's a good call. Aaron Wise, I'm not quite as sold on Wise as everyone else. Even before the year, I was kind of banging the drum on Wise before everyone else. And I even think it's getting a little bit overboard. He's a great ball striker, but he really deals with issues around the green and with the putter. So I would imagine that at some point that really catches up to him. So I'm not sure if I would bet him outright, maybe top 10 though. In DFS, it made a lot more sense in that type of format. But from an outright perspective, I don't want to say that you're lighting money on fire betting him outright, but it would be a huge upset if he went out there and actually won this event. So that's what I'd say about Wise. I love the Hideki Matsuyama call. Gary says, last week I actually played Mansell on a Euro Showdown lineup. Wilson, wherever you are yesterday, was just jokes. Yeah, we were just messing with him, of course. But yeah, he definitely wasn't a lock though, right? If you're going to play Mansell, it would have been like just as a pure flyer, which I understand it and that sort of thing. But it wasn't anything that I could have gone up on the soapbox and tried to convince you guys of, right? Other than just saying that it's a pure flyer play. So we got Catch Me If You Can, who I completely agree with, says that he sucks balls. Agreed. And Mark Green says fits for top 5. Yeah, I think top 5 would be a good market for him. He's kind of similar to an Aaron Wise. I don't think that Matt Fitzpatrick is winning this event. He hasn't won on American soil yet, and he's probably not going to win his first event at a major championship. He kind of proved that to us at Southern Hills, where he choked there on Saturday and Sunday. But top 5, I could see it in that type of market. So I'm not going to take that bet, Mark, but I could certainly see the thought process behind that. And we have Jin Yang, who says Xander top 10. I could see that too. I'm not a huge Xander guy this week, but pretty much every US Open, he finishes top 10. So depending on the odds you're getting, obviously I don't have the book up in front of me. I don't know what type of value that you're getting. But if you're getting anything less than, let's say, 3-1 odds on Xander Schauffele to finish top 10, I'd be a biter on that sort of thing. So that's all I'm going to have for you guys. I am going to be working on a prize picks video here in the next half an hour to an hour. So look forward to that if you're looking for my top props. And as per usual, going to do the same thing tomorrow. So at 7 p.m. Eastern time, or it might be a little bit later, right? So you have to wait for the cut line. If the cut line is going to sway one way or another, I am going to have to delay the live stream to make sure that we get the exact player pool. But expect a live stream at like 7:30 p.m., maybe 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, something in that range. Either way, it'll be posted on my social media when we're going live. So I appreciate you guys. Best of luck here for the second round. And let's